started.
Okay, so second, yeah. So thank you all for joining. I'm very grateful that all of you have taken your time and have joined today's session. This is a continuing series of sessions, which is primarily designed to help you. You know, it's not like something that we're adding work to you. It is more to help you do your work smartly, right? And to grow yourself in the careers, whether in whichever position you are, whether you are a fresher or a lead or a manager or a director, doesn't matter. As long as we have right attitude towards training and willingness to learn, there is always something to learn, right? So these courses, as I told in the previous time also, these are custom designed just to just to fit the gaps. You know, wherever we have seen over a period of time, resources have some gaps, right? Managers struggle to work with such resources. That manager's dream is like to have the best resources in his team, right? But he always lands up saying, okay, my team is not good enough, you know, this resource doesn't have this. So all those gaps, when we accumulated together and we saw that these are the common gaps that people are facing in the industry, those gaps have been converted into courses. So this is not a this course, like for example, business process and IT systems, a very custom designed course. It's more of a consciousness changing course, right? So let me go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started with today's session. Yeah. And I want this to be more interactive. I know there are managers also on the call who are senior enough to contribute. And the juniors can also ask if they did not understand anything. See, the purpose of this training is not to finish 1 hour and say that, okay, I'm done. I've attended the training, I'm done. No, that's not the point. The point is you have to be at least 0.1% changed as a person when you finish the training. And when you apply the training, at least 5 to 10% changed in your the way you do your work, right? So, am I clearly audible before I begin? Am I clearly audible?
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir, you're
Yes.
audible.
and can you see the screen as
Yes.
well?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, we
Okay,
can see the
okay,
screen.
great. Yeah, yeah. There's some children also attending, I guess. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so business process and IT systems. So I'll read the three lines that I mentioned there. Information technology, IT, is an enabler to businesses. If one cannot understand the business process, one cannot deliver the best solutions. The seminar explains how to identify and understand business process in various industries. I'll tell you why this course was brought up in first place, right? See, there was a time when people were into different professions, be it medicine or engineering or chartered accountancy, or business consulting, or hotel industry, service industry, cooks, right? There are different. These are all different professions actually. You know, means of making money, and wherever your interest is, you get into that, right? Now there came along a new stream of workforce which is called information technology. This became prominent when the 80s ended, early 90s. It became very prominent. Before that, there was information technology, but it was limitedly used. It was more like storage of information or capturing of information. Only it was limited to that. But as the time progressed, now IT became part of almost every profession, and in itself, it also became a profession. For example, uh, at least I think 15 years ago, when I was in US, I took my son, my elder son, to a clinic, to a doctor's clinic. And in the doctor's clinic, what I saw is the doctor did not come with a stethoscope; he came with a laptop, and I was surprised. Why are you coming with a laptop? And first time I was seeing a doctor with a laptop. In India, you wouldn't see that, right? India would see somebody with a there's a thing and a BP machine there, and they say, okay, bring your son and we'll check it out. So he came with a laptop. I was like, okay, what is he going to do now? So he said, okay, what is your name? What is your son's name? And what is his date of birth? What are the vaccinations he has taken? What is the problem that you currently have? What are the problems you had in the past? What are the problems you are foreseeing because of this? And what his sibling has any similar traits? What are my problems? Are there any hereditary problems before analyzing my son? So he was going on question after question after question after question, and it went almost till like 20 minutes. It started becoming irritating for me because my son was having fever and he wanted to be he had to be treated for fever. But This doctor is just going on taking the information, right? So I was wondering, why is he taking so much information, right? Because I'm a CA, I'm not a IT guy, so to say IT guy, but I have used IT extensively. I was implementing Oracle, many other applications. Um, but I was surprised to see a doctor using information technology to such an extent. And then after 20 minutes of data entry, finally he says, okay, your record is done, you're registered. And now he says, okay, what is the problem? And then he gets his stethoscope, all these things, and he sees BP and the heartbeat and everything else, right? So then I actually understood that IT is now part of every profession, right? It's not like there is any profession on the planet where IT doesn't have a role to play, right? And now the second question is, okay, IT has a role to play everywhere. So obviously it's in demand. So obviously the IT guys are the most highly paid guys, right? As of now. Uh, but is that a profession in itself? Is that a profession in silos? Because a lot of the time, especially in South India and especially in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, the dream of the parents is my son should go to America, like that. It's almost like a taboo. We keep making joke of it, me and my friends, like taking birth in Telangana or Andhra Pradesh means you have to go to America at least once, something like that. They're like a what do you call branding of a family. When you go to a function, oh, me vaadu America vellada, velleda, like that. In Telugu, I don't know how many of you don't understand Telugu, but I'm saying even relatives compare whether somebody has gone to America or not. And one of the most important vocations in which people are expected to go to America is not civil engineering, is not mechanical engineering, it is not chartered accountancy, it is definitely not doctor, it is absolutely information technology, right? We all know that. We all know that everybody wants to go to America, and the primary, profession that one chooses is going through IT, right? Now, why am I giving all this background is to make you understand, all of us understand, that knowingly, unknowingly, we think that IT is a career. We think that IT is a line of profession, right? And IT means to learn technologies, and you're expert in a technology, or you know how to use a technology, so you're a good IT person, right? So IT career means Java, Oracle, SAP, or I don't know, PeopleSoft, ERPs, and data science now, right? Data modeling, and there are so many new things that are coming up. Data warehousing is a history now, So basically, there is so much cloud computing. So everything, when we say IT, we get to hear all these names, right? Especially somebody who has gone to, the Makkah of IT, which is like, what do you call that place? Amirpet, right? Right? You see so many boards, right, filled with IT names. Like you want to become a what is that DBA? There is a DBA course, right? There is this course, there is that course. Huge boards of courses, all over the place. And actually, a lot of people they think that if I learn these courses, I'll become in demand and I can grow in my career, right? But there is a big problem, which is known after some time, after you get into IT career. If you get into IT career with that mindset, thinking that if I do these courses and I worked on these courses, I'm implemented these technologies, I think this is the way I can grow in my career. That's not true. There is a problem. The problem is your consciousness, your mindset towards business, right? Your mindset towards business, that is lacking. You're only thinking about IT. You're not thinking about business, right? You think that IT itself is a career. But at some point of time, you'll go and hit a wall. After that, you don't know what to do. You can't go further up in the chain because you have never put your heart and mind towards business behind the IT. A lot of times people say that we need domain knowledge, right? We need domain knowledge. They also club with the IT knowledge, but people don't actually give that much importance. Especially if you go to US or Western countries, there they keep the domain knowledge people first in the row, and then the IT guys. IT guys are like back end guys. IT means back end, not front end. Front end means domain business guys, right? That is why no wonder now, even though the IT outsourcing has happened so much to India, but still the first two phases, which is requirement gathering and design phase, happens only in Western countries. What comes here eventually is a technical design phase, and then the the build phase and testing phase and deployment phase. All the techie work comes here, but the main important work of understanding the requirement and designing a business solution doesn't come to India. At least I can tell you 99% it doesn't come. Most very few cases, maybe some companies have tried that. Why? Because they have understood that Indians are always behind, you know, building things and solving it, rather than understanding the root need of any such business. Are you all following what we are discussing so far?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, Lakshman. And this is very interesting thing actually,
Yeah.
that everyone has to understand and follow actually.
Yeah, and this should be, this orientation should be given in the beginning of the career, not after like 15-20 years, when we have reached to a
Yes.
point and we don't have a mindset to learn anymore, and then you land up in that in between stage. We don't know how your career will grow, right?
Mhm.
So that's why I've chosen this topic. Now we're going to spend a little bit of time, especially for the newcomers and also for the experienced. You can see how to learn a business process, how to see a business process. In everything there is a business process, right? So now I'm going to share my screen and I'll tell you what we are going to discuss, right? So we are going to discuss. I'll just hide this panel 1 minute. Yeah, yeah, okay. So we're going to discuss what is the employer expectation of business process knowledge, right? What difference does domain knowledge do to one? What is domain? What is the domain knowledge? What does it do to one, right? So this is one topic that we'll discuss today. Next is business process and IT systems. What exactly is a business process? We need to define what do you mean by business process and how IT is linked to business process, right? That also is very, very important for us to learn. Next, know your landscape, right? Mapping business landscape to IT landscape. What does it mean, right? We'll discuss about that. And next, demo of few basic business process. I'm going to demo few business process, basic business process, and that will help you get a technique of seeing business processes in your day-to-day life, right? And next steps and question answers, right? So let's go forward. Right? So let's know your business. Now, so employer expectation today, right? So if you really see, is this topic relevance or not, right? A lot of times people say, hey, this training is not relevant. Why should I even get this training? So I always make sure that in the beginning of the course itself, I want to prove that this is most relevant, and not because I feel that it's relevant, because the whole world feels it's relevant. If you see Hindu, the magazine Hindu, so the paper Hindu, it says, gain domain knowledge to improve job prospects, students are told, right? And this is like in so many papers. In Springer Link, effects of domain knowledge on user performance and perception in a knowledge domain visualization system, right? Business process knowledge, very, very key, right? In techo functional skills are very, very key, right? And business analytics, improve your domain knowledge with the list of courses. So there is no doubt that so much importance has been given to domain knowledge and business process knowledge, but nobody puts an effort, right? The mindset itself is not there that we have to improve this, right? So today's fresher does not know what role does IT play in business. He doesn't know. He only sees technology name. Hey, तेरे को आता है क्या? क्या आता है? Do you know that what is it? Python? Ah, you know Python. It's a snake. No, 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 not snake. I'm talking about the business line. Oh, that Python. I have taken that course. I know the Python. But how is Python useful for a company which manufactures clothes? If I tell, can you implement Python in a textile industry? The guy is thinking, textile industry, Python, I don't know, or yeah, I think it will, but it has no clue of what is the difference between technology and business process. Very, very important that people lack. And fresher is expected to equip himself with core business processes in the industry, domains such as manufacturing, banking, and financial. Now, these are the domains. Actually, all the audience in this meeting right now, if in your if in your career, early on in your career, you don't put an effort to understand these business processes of these great industries, big industries, I don't think you'll grow in your careers. At some point, you'll become redundant, or you'll become, like, okay, this guy is tagged as this kind of an industry, right? So it can be manufacturing, business and banking and financial, which we also call as BNFS, and trading, logistics, communication, media and entertainment, high tech technology, healthcare, And there are many more telecommunications, right? So there are so many more industries. You should put an effort to understand what happens in those industries, right? Like, I'll give an example. um, Once I went to a factory, called Amber Biscuits. I don't know how many of you have heard this name, Amber Biscuits, right? It's in Medchal in Hyderabad, the other side. When I was doing my CA, I went there for an audit and a financial audit, right? There I went, and then I realized that actually Amber Biscuits is a factory, but what is coming out of Amber Biscuits is Britannia biscuits, right? Then I said, okay, Britannia is a brand. Okay, then I went and questioned, so where is the biggest Britannia factory? Where is the biggest Britannia factory? And I was surprised to know that there is nothing called Britannia factory. How many of you know that Britannia, which is known for making biscuits, does not have its own a single factory? It doesn't make biscuits. Britannia is merely a brand, right? It's a business line and it's a brand. And there are so many companies like Amber Biscuits and some other biscuits, some other biscuits. So they all together, they manufacture according to Portland standard and they put them into packaging. So all Britannia does is it gives a formula for making biscuits, right? And the ingredients and the raw material. It doesn't even give the raw material. It just say this is the raw material. And there is a standard set of another set of manufacturers who actually send that raw material to all the factories where Britannia biscuits are supposed to be made. And then there is packing material, which is sent by Britannia. Again, there is another manufacturer who makes packing material for Britannia and he supplies to all this place. And then this packing material comes and finally the biscuit factory starts. And it was so amazing to see how a biscuit actually is made, right? I know now many of us have ovens and we have tried to make our own cookies at home, but you should really take your children sometime and go to a factory, right? And especially IT guys, come out of those, that 4 by 2 by 2 feet dabbas in front of your faces, just come out of that and go to a factory and actually see how things are made. Your passion to come up with solutions in IT will increase when you actually see the business. Without seeing the business, you are just talking, like theory, right? What is it? How is it going to work like that? So I went to actually this biscuit factory. It was so nice. I told my CA friends that, hey, you know what? I'm going to do the audit, but I'll do after 2 days. Just leave me alone. I want to see how biscuits are made. So I used to go in the morning. I used to go to this the assembly line, right? So where the dough is mixed and how much sugar they add and from where the sugar comes, and how finally the thing is made, how the imprints are made, how it is put into a big, like assembly line, and it keeps rolling and the oven comes, and the oven, it goes into the oven, big heavy, hot oven, and then the whole thing comes out, and then the biscuits are almost crispy, right? You can actually get to taste them there. They will tell you if you want to taste right the biscuit that has come out. And there are some quality department folks who taste it at each stage where everything is right, and then the whole thing comes out, right? And then how the packaging, how the whole thing comes into a point and the packaging happens. And there is different kinds of Britannia biscuits, right? 50-50, right? The Khatta Mita and all those brands are being made. The best part is cream biscuits. Okay, now you really have to see the way cream biscuits are made, the amount of precision and time, the timing of catching the drop of cream. So that there is an instrument on the top which opens and a drop of cream falls, and exactly while it is falling right in the middle of the air, the two biscuits join and it falls down. Right? Even 1 second or one fraction of a second difference means half the cream will be inside, half the cream will be outside. And that is why sometimes when you buy biscuits, sometimes you see the cream has come out on some biscuits. I don't know if you have observed, right? In the cream biscuit, sometimes you see that the half the cream is inside, half the cream is outside. But most of the time, they make sure that it is perfectly catching at a right moment, that the cream biscuit comes out perfectly out, right? And then the whole thing, the way it is packed. And now you might be feeling, why am I speaking all this detail? But I'll tell you what. After seeing this factory for 2 days, my fascination for doing audit for the factory increased. I could understand everything in that factory, by when I was doing the auditing. Because when I do the auditing, I get a trial balance, right? In accountants language, I get a trial balance. In trial balance, I can see raw material. In raw material, I can see sugar. I can see, basin. I can see packing material. I can see, the glue used to pack the material. I can see the ribbon, the manufacturing ribbons that are rolling. I can see so many things. Now the whole trial balance makes me understand the balances, makes me understand where the business is, right? So after that day onwards, I made sure that wherever I used to go and do audit, I would visit the factory, or I would understand what is the business process behind it, and how this IT is contributing to the business process. Are you all with me so far?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Can I
Lakshman
ask
sir.
can I ask anybody else in the group today to share one business process he has seen live being in IT? Anybody? Even small or big, whatever. Actually live, people using it.
Yeah, I did actually. I was in Melbourne, and we were supposed to build a, one small application which are supposed to sit on a mobile. And the process which we were told to automate was to, how the baggage is when the passenger is leaving the baggage in the counter, and when it is reaching to the loader to put that into the aircraft. That was the process that we were supposed to automate to track the baggages of the passenger. So we actually went to the airport,
Hello?
and I am audible.
Sorry, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Ajay,
Yes,
you are
sir.
also
Yes,
audible.
you're audible.
Yes, yes. Both are
Yeah,
audible.
yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, the target was to meet the challenge, the time when the passenger is leaving the baggage at the counter, and the time when it is coming to the loader. Between that, we were supposed to do anything and everything which is supposed to be done by the software. So we went to the counter, and when we followed actually one particular passenger. We saw that he's leaving the baggage, and he's taking out the bar that typically what we got after ticket is and thereafter we went to the loader, the basically where the aircraft was parked, and loader was taking the baggage and putting into a container which is typically called as ULD, and then ULD get you know parked into the place into the aircraft. So this entire process we seen, and we found that yes, we can meet this challenge within the 3 to 4 minutes. Everything should get updated into the backend server, and should also be get refreshed into the local device which is holded by the loader who is putting the baggage onto the ULD.
Yeah.
So this was the process which actually we seen, and then we said that yes, it is feasible, we can do that.
Yeah. And it brings so much motivation for you to come up with more solutions, right? When you see
Yes,
something.
yes, yeah. This gives us the opportunity to what is the best technology that we can meet this manual process,
Yeah.
and whether technically it is possible or not, and all that things. Yes, it was quite, and it was interesting to talk with the loader, because loader needs to decide that on which particular ULD the bag needs to be placed, and what was their manual process.
Yeah. That's so right. So we'll get into more examples like this. So anybody else on the call? Any other reflections? Or what did you feel about what Ajay just explained?
Yeah, it is just like rather than we read the documentation and the specifications, and if we move around and go and physically see the things as how it's happening, and I think we can link it somewhere up to our I mean our technology, like how you have checked your factory, seeing the biscuits and how it is tallied with the audit, and as Ajay sir also met with his specifications
Yeah.
where he has the manual load.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. So let's go forward now. Now I want this to be a little interactive, because actually being interactive also is part of your training. because the more you are interactive, the more customers will like you and the more you will go up in the career, right? If you remain silent, not speaking out, not expressing what you feel, not asking your questions, then you will be one of those backlog guys, you'll always look for end of the year to find appraisal increment. That's all it will be, but if you really want to grow up in the careers, you really have to speak out and be more vocal about it. Okay. So I encourage you to do that more. Now, what exactly is a business process, right? Wait a second. I'll try to move this. I'll try to hide this panel. Yeah. So what is a business process? Anybody, before I answer what is a business process, I want you to tell what is a business process. What do you think is a business process?
It is
How
an
do you
activity,
define it?
it is an activity done by the organization for the day-to-day process.
Yes.
For it in that organization will includes manufacturing, finance, production, and sales and distribution. Many areas of business are carried out in the business process.
Yes. See, I'll put it even simple words, even small child can understand. If I give 20 rupees to my son, right? If I give 20 rupees to my son, immediately a business process will start. What he'll do? He'll wear his chappal, he'll run to a shop, he'll buy a choco bar ice cream, he will eat it, and he'll come and tell it's good. Simple. You know what is a business process now? The simplest thing. What you do and everything you do is a business process. Right? So every sequence of activity is a business process. And it can be triggered by some external event, right? By some external event or some kind of a thing that you do. So it is triggered by an external business event. Something it triggers, and whatever you do to cope up with that, and you keep doing it to coping up with that, becomes a business process, right? So this is one way of looking at it. Another way is it is comprised of all activities necessary to provide the appropriate business outcomes, right? So you are expecting some outcome, and what all activities have to be done to get that outcome, together it is called as a business process, right? And it transforms input of all types into outputs, right? So there is the input, there is output. Whatever happens in between, the whole sequence of steps is called a business process, according to the guidance, policies, standards, procedures, rules, whatever that you set in between, right? So that is how, when it functions and comes out, the whole thing is called as a business process. Simple words. It contains activity which usually cross functions, often through organizational units, right? So there is a HR department, there is a finance department, there is a marketing department, engineering department, production department. There are some business process which not only happen in one department, but they get through all the departments. For example, when Pawan gets a project, right? Or Pawan if he gets a project, what all departments do you think get affected in the company? Recruitment is affected because they have to go and get people. Marketing is affected because marketing are the ones who get the project to start with. HR is affected because now they have to see what kind of right people have to be brought from where, within the organization, outside the organization, whichever way, right? And which other department is affected? Obviously, the delivery department is affected, right? Because they have to allocate people to do the project. And then the production support has to be ready if they have to take over the project after the implementation, right? And then the finance is affected because we have to get a PO, we have to raise invoices, we have to account for that, we have to publish the accounts, and we have to monitor the profitability, whether even we are as per the budget project we have been performing or not, right? So almost every department is affected across all the functions, and business process sometimes, why am I telling the example, is not relevant to one department alone. Sometimes it spans across all the departments, right? So there are some business processes that are only limited to one department. For example, hiring a new person in a company is a business process. Like somebody asks for a person, then the recruitment searches for a person, then the interviews happen, and the selection happens, the final offer is rolled out, and the person comes in and is onboarded. Now, this whole business process is within HR, only limited to HR, right? There is no finance in this. There is no delivery in this. There is no other, maybe delivery might come in interview. That's a different thing. But otherwise, most of HR process. So there are some business processes which are relevant to only one department, but there are many business processes which also cut through many departments. Now, business process has performance indicators. Now, anything just doesn't mean a business. It also has performance indicators, meaning how efficiently it is being performed can be measured, right? Like if I'm saying that this is a business process, I can tell whether it is going fast, whether it is going slow, whether it's efficient or can be improvised, right? And I know how to capture that information, right? A business process is designed in such a way that you can capture information as it happens, right? Time relevant information and many other informations like deliverables, time schedule, resource and people all together. When they come, they start performing these activities, so it can be measured, right? So finally, it delivers a product or service to an external stakeholder or an internal or another internal process. It can be like, okay, recruitment happens, so delivery takes over. So in a way, it's an internal sourcing, right? Recruitment team is helping the internal people. Or it can be external, like, another company wants people from us and we are hiring for them, right? On a margin, we are hiring for them. So there can be different ways in which your business process can be contributing to outside people or to inside people, right? So did everybody understand what is a business process? In simple words, like I told in the beginning, two things. It is how we do what we do. You can remember this? Very simple. How we do what we do, and it's everything we do. Everything we do, even from morning till evening, whatever we do can be organized into a sequence, and it can be called as a business process, right? Okay, let's go forward. Now, there is a very nice tool, Six Sigma tool, which can be used for documenting a business process. I highly recommend every one of you to use this tool. Okay, it's a very simple tool. It's called SIPOC, right? SIPOC. How many have used this? Anybody in the call who has used it sometime in your career? Nobody? Okay. So I'm going to tell you what this tool is. Are you all able to hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, Lakshman.
Yeah. Okay. So SIPOC is simple. Supplier, S for supplier, I for input, P for process, O for output, C for customer. Supplier, input, process, output, customer. Right? This is the meaning of SIPOC. And whenever you go to a customer place, no matter what documentation format you're following, but if you put a SIPOC, you can definitely capture the entire business process. You will not miss a single end, right? For example, like I told here, let's go into SIPOC and see. For inventory packing company, see, there has to be a supplier and there has to be a customer for everything, right? Somebody gives something, you process and give it back, right? So here, supplier is somebody who gives, and what does he give? And you will write down who are the suppliers. Like there is an inventory team, there is a dispatch team, there's a supplier A, supplier B. These are the people who supply raw material. Now, what do they give? Supplier and input. So first you have to list down the suppliers, and then you have to put an input. Now, what all comes in the inputs? They give raw materials, they give batch details, they give carton IDs, pick list, etc., SKU numbers, pallets. What all they give for the manufacturing to happen, right? Suppliers and what they give comes under input. Process. What do you do with that raw material? You do capacity planning, picking, QC, packing and scanning, dispatching, delivery, or manufacturing. Everything happens within the process. And then what comes out after the process is output. Output is what? Goods are packed. Whatever you brought is packed. Confirmation mailer, dispatch details, everything is ready. Now, who are the customers? Ultimately, who will receive these goods? The customers like stores, like a supermarket or a godown, where they will receive this material and keep it. So they are your customers, either storing or customer A and customer B, right? So for this, you do use different systems, customer system. For now, let's keep the system aside. Supplier, input, process, output, customers. If you put everything in this process, in these 5 buckets, you can capture your business process very easily, right? Now, it can be used even in your house, right, to practice, because the mindset is very, very important when you're practicing, right? Especially, folks, when you use this SIPOC in your requirement gathering stage, it is very, very useful. when you go to a customer and you're trying to, he's telling, I need this. Immediately said, wait a second, I want to capture 5 things. Whatever you tell, I want to capture 5 things. SIPOC, supplier, input, process, output, customer. Okay, now start speaking. What do you want? So he will tell. Immediately he'll say, okay, so who are the suppliers who are going to give this information? He'll write, okay, these are the suppliers. What are they going to give? Here is the input. What do you want me to do with that information? Here is the process. And what is the output that you want? A report you want, or interface you want? Okay, there is a report. And who is ultimately going to use it? My audience is this curve. Okay, so you've drawn your SIPOC, right? And it can, for fun sake, you can even, learn how to do it in your house, right? For example, knowingly, unknowingly, our mother in the house or wife, they use SIPOC, knowingly or unknowingly. What is that? For example, customer is we all, who eat, who want to have something in the house, who are eating, right? So we come under customer. And what is the output that we need to eat? We need biryani, we need noodles, we need chapati, we need rice, dal, curd, everything is output, right? So we know who is the customer, who is the output. We need this output. But for that output to happen, cooking has to happen. The cooking is the process. I'm going reverse now. I'm just going reverse, right? So customers are we, output is what we eat, and it comes from cooking. And for cooking, what is the input? There is this, all the things that, your mother or your wife who prepares, who gets from the shops, right? And who are the people who supply it to her? Shops, right? Or supermarkets, right? So everything that you see can be captured under SIPOC. And the advantage of using this tool is you will not miss a single thing in a business process. You will not miss a single thing. So it's a very good tool for capturing business process and to also get an idea of how to see business process. Right? Did you all understand what we just discussed? Any questions? It is simple, right? See, you can write a big paragraph. I'll say, okay, go to an airline company and write how they function. You will start writing, okay, airlines, they have planes, they have this, I'll do this, they do that. And they fly from here to there. They have ticketing system, they have baggage handling system, they have ground handling system, they have this system, that system, So you'll write all big paragraph, you'll write. And who has the patience to read that paragraph, number one. And number two, how do you make sure that you've captured everything in that? You don't know. So best thing is, instead of writing big paragraphs, just put a SIPOC, SIPOC. And then put everything into one bucket, and you'll clearly make sure that everything you're capturing end to end. So did you understand what is this tool?
Yes.
Yeah. Can anybody share one business process and let's try to put it into SIPOC? It'll just take 5 minutes. Any business process you can choose.
Our own implementation thing we can actually discuss about.
Yeah, anything.
Any business.
Any business. See, why am I asking me, let's do it now together, is because to give you the confidence and the mindset to see business process wherever you go. Whichever customer place you go, don't ask which technology, that's nonsense, Like talking in technology is the most boring thing to do. But when you see the business process and you're able to document the business process, it's very good. It's really, really more relevant and more interesting, right? So any business process, for example, dairy business process, we did a lot of implementation in dairy, right? Now dairy, can we put a SIPOC in dairy industry? Anybody? Okay, let me ask, and I want you all to participate. Okay, let me ask. Who are the suppliers? Who come under the suppliers in dairy industry?
Like
farmers who owns buffaloes or cows.
Right? Yeah, it can be buffaloes or cows, or farmers who own the buffaloes or cows. Okay, so what is the input?
Milk.
The product.
It's milk.
The product.
Milk product.
Cheese, curds, like that.
Milk product.
Yeah, no, that is not I'm not talking about the product. I'm talking about what is the input.
Milk.
No, input is only the milk.
Milk. That's all it is, right? Milk. Okay. Now through that milk, you can make butter, you can make cheese, you can make curd, you can make buttermilk, you can make just milk itself, right? Milk
That
products.
is output.
So that is your output. But the process to make comes under the process, right? And who are the customers?
End users, we.
End users, or it can be dealers, or it can be warehouses, wherever it is stored, right?
Yeah.
So it is as simple as that to put a SIPOC, right? And by doing the SIPOC, what is happening when you fill the entire SIPOC, you'll realize that you've captured the entire business process without even your knowledge. Just by filling it up, you capture the entire business process. And you should show it to your customers. Next time when you go to a customer site, make a SIPOC and present it to the customer. He'll be so happy. Hey, you have really understood my business process, right? So because if you have not understood his business process, what solution can you give him, right? What motivation will he have to feel that you're understanding the business, right? So it's a good thing. So this is how business process is understood and captured. One of the techniques. Any business can be documented in SIPOC, and there are many tools like that. There's only one tool I'm showing. Now we understood what is the business process. Now let's come to what is information technology. Let me take a time check. Where are we? 3:49. Okay. Yeah. So how do you define information technology, IT? Anything. It doesn't have to be a perfect definition.
Getting the information and putting into a technology and providing the output.
Yes, very good. So getting information, gathering data, processing the data, and converting that into reports, right? Information. Data and information are two different things. Data is raw, information is more specific and useful for decision making, right? Let's go. So information technology, as per Wikipedia, is the application of computers and telecommunication equipment to store, retrieve, transmit, and manipulate data, often in the context of a business or enterprise. For enterprise or business, you store the data, you retrieve the data, you transmit the data, manipulate the data, and report it. In simple words, you get data and you make information and give it to the decision makers. That is what IT does, right? So what is the problem with today's youth perception about IT? Answer is IT is shown as an independent opportunity. That is a problem. And a lot of you people, you say that I'm into IT, I'm into IT. Yeah, you are into IT, but IT in itself is not a career. IT is a via medium to make a career, right? So then your actually career growth will happen. Otherwise, you'll be stuck at one product or one technology, or then you'll become insecure. When the technology is redundant, you become like redundant, right? Something like COBOL. Does anybody use COBOL now? Rarely it is used. But if somebody was an expert in COBOL and he remained expert in COBOL only, what job will you find in the market today? Right? So COBOL is gone. That was a very, very difficult language to type. For doing a small thing, you have to write like such a big command, and it used to get like 500 errors. I remember still my, BCom honors days, we had one subject called information technology, and that we had to write programs on COBOL. So I designed a program for railway ticket reservation. So you can actually book a railway ticket like that. What all information has to be captured, and how big program I had to write. It was more than 600 lines. 600 lines for capturing a ticket information for a single passenger. And when I wrote that 600 lines and I processed it or I compiled it, it came up with 700 errors. And I had to go and clear one error. Finally, it worked. Now, even if I would have been an expert of COBOL, today it is redundant. I don't need all that. I today just have an Excel sheet, right? I can just do a lot of things with simple technologies, right? So, had somebody told me those days that, okay, COBOL is your life, I would have been lifeless today because there is no use of COBOL today. So, it's like looking everything from IT perspective. This guy is saying, so you're applying for a position of a web designer. So a spider has come, right? So web designer doesn't mean that you have to be a spider. You don't have to know how to make a web to become a web designer, right? So don't think just from an IT angle, right? Myths in the market, right? These are all technologies there. IT knowledge alone is good enough to succeed, or the more IT technologies, the more I'm in demand. Or IT consulting companies are in great need of IT skilled resources. Or IT consulting means to learn IT and implement IT, right? These are some of the myths in the market, right? Now you should understand that IT it's an enabler for the business. Business is what drives IT, and IT is what enables business. This is a very important diagram. You should remember. Business drives and IT enables. Right? You should always remember that. That's called business alignment. Right? Now, if a businessman comes and says, my Apple's stock is getting rotten, how can I avoid these losses? That is a question to all of you. Okay, my Apple stock is getting rotten. How can I avoid these losses? Now, this is a big Apple, supplier, and he supplies at least 10 crore rupees turnover in a month, apples. And now his problem is the apples are rotting, right? They have to come from North India to South India. In South India, the atmosphere is not conducive for apples. They're rotting. So now, as an IT consultant, what answer will you give?
Make a juice and sell it.
that seems to be very logical and better answer than telling, buy Java tool or implement Oracle. I think you should be all set. Huh?
Okay.
Does this answer make any sense to him?
No.
Just imagine a person who supplies 130 crore worth apples, and he is coming and discussing a business problem with us. And what is our answer? I think you should implement SAP. I think you should implement, what is it? What modules we have in there? I'm not expert in SAP, more of an Oracle guy. So, you do this, you do that. I think you should be all set.
Quality management.
Or quality management, right? Or I'm just for fun sake, Kiran goes and says, I think you should raise a priority 1 ticket. We will solve it. Or production support, right? So see, guys, what I'm trying to tell you is you should learn to speak business language. Very, very important. With your customers, don't talk IT language. IT language is for us. When you take all the business language and you come home, and when you come to your office, back to your team, then you speak IT language. But sitting in the front of the customers, I think the trigger will work. I think that alert will work. I think that workflow will work. That's nonsense. They are speaking business problem. We are supposed to see from business angle, right? So business process span across business functions, right? So already discussed, like we have research and development, design, purchasing, finance, sales, warehouses. So there are some things which span across. For example, new product innovation spans across research and development all the way till there, right? Product development and manufacturing, it spans at certain departments. Marketing process at a certain departments. Sales process, there are business process. So some business process goes through all of them, like compliance process, right? CMMI compliance we recently did. What all does it cover? It covers everything, right? The business, how you document and maintain the standards across the board, across the organization, all the functions. Human resources, HR, spans through everything because it's people who do work. It's people who do work in. The company, right? So it spans through everywhere. Finance, it practically spans through everywhere. So you should understand the business process, how it spans through the business, right? So where IT contributes, IT also spans through everywhere, right? There can be specific to some functions. It can also be everywhere. IT is there in all business processes and functions. It is an enabler. It is an enabler. Without IT, we can't function today. But IT in itself is useless. Yeah. So how important is IT for a business? It's very, very important, right? What happens if the IT person doesn't hear the business person? This is what happens. These all pictures are very famous in the, in the internet. I just picked one from the internet, right? So what the user wanted was something like this. How the analyst saw is something like this. How the system was done is something like this. As the programmer wrote it, something like this. And finally, the user really wanted was this, and he got this, right? So this is what happens when we only talk IT language. If we don't hear the business, then this is what happens, right? So business strategy. What is business strategy? Business strategy and business priorities must drive the direction and priorities of the IT. Meaning what? For example, Reliance is a big business company, right? Reliance. Dhirubhai Ambani's Reliance, right? Now, 15 years back, they told, okay, I think we should get into telecommunications. So that's called a strategy. And because they came up with the telecommunications strategy, a new department became very, very active, which is about telecommunications department, VoIP department. How do they use internet to send the voices out, right? All that started. And today, practically so many phones are simply running on VoIP, like IP-enabled telecommunication, which was not there before. So there is a business strategy, and the IT helps the business strategy achieve its goal. Right? We already discussed it. I'm just trying to explain. IT strategy is which enables the business strategy. Right? So, yeah. We'll go forward. In the interest of time, I'm just skipping some examples there. But you know what I'm going to speak there, so I thought I can skip some. So what is the best way to learn business process? Start understanding industries we can relate in our daily life. Guys, you don't have to put extra effort to learn a business process. You can actually learn a business process everywhere. Can somebody tell me where you can learn business process apart from the office? Where you can go and learn a business process?
Anywhere, if we go and drink tea also, we can learn a business process there, sir.
Amazing answer. Yes, that's true. Everywhere. See, when you go to supermarket, you buy some things there, and a bill comes out. One bill comes out, right? And it tears that bill and it gives it to you. How many of you have actually read the bill? Not only what you bought, but what all things are there in that bill. Has anybody read?
We have date, bill number.
Okay, what all comes in the bill?
Terms and conditions. Which they
Even
have.
unit IDs, the barcode information.
Barcode ID, item ID. There is a quantity. There is an amount. And there is sometimes even batch number is there, right? From which batch this item is coming. And sometimes there is a date, obviously a date when you bought it, right? What else? Time at which you bought it. Discounts that you got it. Yes.
Thank you.
These days, most of the people are purchasing from DMart, so they see how much they saved at last.
How much they saved at last, right? They saved or they were shaved. Who knows? Nobody knows. So they show something for 3,000 rupees and they say, you are so lucky, you got 80% discount today. And they'll give it for 600, whereas you can buy the same thing in Koti for 400. And you're feeling, I saved, 2,400.
Feel good factor.
Feel good factor.
Yeah, like a lace packet.
Absolutely, with lots of air in it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So to start understanding this.
Still people buy that.
Yeah. So sources, in a daily life include what you buy, what you use, where you work, what you sell. Everywhere you can see a business process. You can understand. You want to understand industries? You go and get into a metro train, you can understand travel. You get corona, you can understand hospital. I don't want you to, but I'm just telling you. You can practically go anywhere and learn about an industry. Learning industries are all around you, provided you have a mindset and an interest to learn about industry. Healthcare you can learn, capital markets you can learn, telecom you can learn, retail you can learn, automobiles you can learn. So many industries you can learn. Next, understand the common function areas in all types of businesses. How do you do that? Simple. Sources. What are the sources? Management books or interview your friends, or relatives or businessmen. See, you can, when you meet a friend, you can tell, okay, where are you working? I'm working in Novotel. Oh, is it? You're working in Novotel. So can you tell me what do you do in Novotel? Can you tell me what do you manufacture there? Can you tell me, where all you have your factory spread out? Or you can just get into a business level discussion and you'll understand so many things rather than just the word called Novotel or a hotel or anything, right? You should be included, or you can get it from management books. You can go into internet and learn about industry, right? And these days in YouTube, we have so many good domain videos, so many good, they have made so many manufacturing, shop floor level videos and so many assembly line videos they've made. You should actually see those videos sometimes. You understand the business process, what happens behind. Understand the core business processes in all types of business, right? Core business in all types of business, core understand. So what is the source for that? You can visit a company or for a walkthrough, or you can, take up some tasks at business and perform, right? You can sit with a friend and you can go through the entire industry that he has worked in. Learn how IT has contributed to business process. Where can you learn how IT has contributed to business process? I want you to answer this. How to learn how IT has contributed to business process? Come on, folks, speak to Ajay. Speak to your seniors. Speak to project managers who have just implemented Harman. Go and talk to them. Sit down, sit beside them and ask, hey, what was the business process before? And what did you implement? After implementing, what is the new business process? You will learn. As simple as that. Right?
Guys, recently we have implemented one business process, automated business process where, let me give you a little bit background here.
Yes.
Before COVID, the flight departure gate and these information from which bay, from which gate the flight will depart, that was a manual process where, the ground staff at the airport were doing the data entry into the system. And because of the COVID situation, they actually lay off the resources or basically discontinued with the contract. Then the challenge was came to how the data will get into the system if the people will not manually punch the data. Then, a discussion was took place with the technical departments of different airports, how we can automate this thing, because they knows, because it's the airport which actually allocate the date, basically the gate to the flight. So they are the primary person who decide and who knows that from which gate the particular flight will get depart. So then, the discussion took place between the Jetstar Airways and the airport authority to sign a contract that if they can share this information at a very real time, as and when they are deciding a particular gate for a flight, if they can provide that feed to us, and we can automate the process to capture that feed and update our system. So this was the project that we recently implemented for one of the airport, two airport basically. One is the Sydney airport and another one is Adelaide airport. So this actually saves two things: the money, because earlier they were paying to the contract at the airport, and at the same time, at a very real time, as and when the airport authority is deciding the date, the data is getting updated in our system. So this was the manual process, business process, that we automate by means of creating a automated bot.
Thank you, Ajay, for sharing that. Now, all the folks on the call, I'm telling you, life is really interesting when you get onto the shop floor or when you really get onto the business line and actually see how things happen and how the customers want to improve their business, and how you as a person who has come into this company, a Lorhan, is going to help him do that. Right? Then actually it becomes very interesting. You become part of their business rather than part of some IT department. IT department is the most boring department on the whole planet if they only discuss IT. You know what I'm saying? For that matter, even finance department is one of the most boring department on the planet if you only discuss debits and credits. Right? But we have to get into the core business of the company. I can't hear people snoring, but I can get a feeling that some people are.
You can take someone's name and let's see if they'll respond or not from the participants list.
Okay, to wake you all up, I'm going to share a nice example. This happened in 1998. It happened in 1998. Some of you might not have taken birth then. I was doing my CA, and I went to implement, not to implement, that time I was more of an auditor. So I went to Bhadrachalam paper boards. How many have ever gone to Bhadrachalam here? Anybody
Yeah, I have gone.
Yeah. Okay. So
What is the name?
next 5 minutes.
Swarup.
Huh?
Swarup. I'm Swarup. I went there.
Oh, great. Yeah. Thank you, Soro. Yeah. So Bhadrachalam, it is very nice Ram Mandir. Beautiful Ram Mandir. You should go there. And you should see the coins that were given by Lord Ram himself. The coins, that he himself gave it to a king, for releasing a great devotee. But you should go there and see all that.
Ramadasu.
Yeah, Ramadas, right? So there is a factory there called Bhadrachalam Paper Boards, right? And this factory makes paper, and paper boards from big machine, huge machinery. So sometime in '98, they created a new factory. Within the factory, they created a new factory. So there's PM1, PM2, PM3, and PM4. PM is factory, plant, manufacturing plant 1, manufacturing plant 2, manufacturing plant 3, manufacturing plant 4. Now, plant 4 is a new one, right? Now, plant 1, 2, 3, and are old ones, which they were using for 50 years or 40 years. There were a lot of challenges in making right kind of paper, meaning they put all this pulp or waste paper or something in the background, and then it is boiled and it is thinned, and then it is shined, and then finally the thickness of the paper comes out, right? Now the problem is sometimes the paper would come out with, if the paper is like this, it is thick this side, is thin this side, right? Then what do? They have to throw the whole thing out. They have to again put it back in the, take it back again in the machine and start processing once again. So they needed some very automated machine which can actually create different kinds of paper based on some commands. Just press the commands, put the thickness, and it comes out evenly, perfectly, all that. So in 1998, ITC, which is one of the biggest companies or board of companies in the whole country, ITC. So they are famous in cigarettes, of course, but they are into hotel industry, they are into paper industry. So ITC Paper Boards was one of the biggest. Now, what they did is they went to like 100+ countries, and they bought different solutions, and finally they assembled a machine with more than 100 companies contributing to make the paper. From here you put the raw material, and here comes out the paper, and it rolls, right? And there is a roller also, and the paper is rolled into what huge rollers, like there is a roll which is as big as 12 by 12 feet room, that big roll, right? Now these rolls have to be stored. Now paper storing is also a very big process. Why? Because if you don't store it properly, if it gets moisture, the entire paper is gone. Paper is very vulnerable for water vapor, or any water that comes, it spoils the whole thing, right? So you have to make sure you store it in the right way. And then storing and removing is also one very important thing. So they made a big warehouse, right? Huge warehouse they made. And in that warehouse, there are big bars. How long bars? Their bars are like almost like 100 feet high, huge bars. And on top of that, there is a suction crane. So there is this, say, for example, this is the paper roll, and the suction crane comes, it will take it, and then it will go on a particular bar, and it'll keep it there, right? So each bar, say for example, bar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like that, you have like 100 bars, different places. And then you have, the levels at which you keep the paper rolls, right? Paper roll A, B, C, D, E. On each paper roll, there are like 5 rolls, right? Each bar, there are like 5 rolls. So if I want 23B, so if I want to supply 23B, that means I have to go to the 23rd bar. I have to remove the E, the D, and the C, and then go to B and take the B roll and give it to the truck, and the truck will take it out. Did you all understand what the warehouse model? Was it clear?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. I'm going to tell you something very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this is how the PM4 was functioning. Now, the problem is with paper manufacturing, or this is that production should never stop. If you stop, there will be so much raw material that will go waste, because the wood is boiled, the pulp is boiled, and it is in the process, it is coming and becoming paper. You cannot shut off in between. If you shut off in between, everything till there, you have to take it out, go and put it again from the beginning. So you cannot shut off the machine. If you shut off, you lose a lot of raw material. And in crores, not like in lakhs or something, in crores, there is a loss. So here is what happened. One fine morning, the warehouse where all the paper rolls were stored, the crane stopped working. the crane. You can just go sit there and say 22C, and it will go to the 22nd bar, remove the top two and remove the C1, and it will bring it out, or it will keep it there. The whole crane, the system, which was again designed by hundreds of countries, which came and designed. Practically, foreigners used to walk in Bhadrachalam all the time because they were part of one person from Israel, one person from Australia, one person from Argentina. I don't know from where all people used to come, and they used to do that. And they used to do that, right? So it was all done. So yeah. So what happened is it stopped working one day, and when it stopped working one day, then people are wondering what happened. Now, just understand what will happen. If the warehouse system is stopped working, after a certain point of time, you don't know where to store that rolls. So what will happen? Your factory will stop. You understanding? Your factory will stop. And when your factory stops, what will happen? Your entire raw material will stop inside the machine. And what about the raw material outside the machine? There are a lot of people who are getting this raw material from outside. There are ships who bring waste paper to India. Do you know that India buys waste paper? I never knew this until I went to the factory in 1998. There were piles of books and waste paper that comes from all over the world, and it is in ships, and that is used for making paper. So anyways, so everything comes to a halt, and within a day's time, the loss crossed 10 crores in a day's time, right? And the chairman of ITC, YC Deveshwar, one of the great top guys, he was informed, and he sent his directors. People were coming to the Bhadrachalam paperboards factory trying to understand what's wrong. And in those days, in 1998, there was video conferencing, and it was not easy. Today, you can do video conferencing with your mobiles. You stand in one WhatsApp, you can do video conferencing. But in those days, video conferencing is a very big thing. You literally have satellite connections, and you have so many, equipment to do that video conferencing in one country. So other country people started reviewing the warehouse through the cameras. So they're like, okay, I contributed this part of the warehouse, so let us check my part, let us check his part, like that. They were doing. They could not find out why the crane is not working. Third day, fourth day, fifth day, and we were doing the audit there. I'm the audit guy, so like audit. So I went and asked the factory manager, can you provide that register? He said, go hell with your audit. If the crane doesn't work in another 2 days, we all will go home. You can also go home. What will finance do if the whole damn thing is not working? So they were totally tensed. Literally, the factory manager was, shivering because he lose his job. So many vendors were so much scared. What is going to happen? One factory is closed, right? And they don't know what to do about it. So then the whole thing was happening. And seventh day, eighth day, they were all working day and night. All the factory people are working day and night. They don't know why the crane is not working. If the crane starts working, the factory starts. The warehousing starts, the supply starts, everything starts, right? After 8th day, suddenly on 9th day morning, I think it's the 9th day, I don't remember, it's been quite a long time, more than 23 years now, right? Suddenly, the crane started working. It just started working. That person came, he clicked the button, it started working. And yeah, so it just started working. And they were wondering, what did they do? What happened? They were searching everywhere, and they understood. They were investigating who fixed it. Let us reward the person who fixed it. But they don't know who fixed it because everyone was still experimenting. Nobody knows how the crane started working. And then they started analyzing what are the activities which happened since yesterday to now. And they discovered that there was one person, his duty was to clean the spider webs in the factory. He would just come and clean the, jhaduwala, the big jhadu guy. He goes in top sides, once in a month, his job, he comes and removes all the spider webs. This was the only extra activity that happened is somebody came to clean the spider webs. And then they understood that the beam which sends the information for the crane to move, on that very information beam place, there was a spider web. Just a spider web, right? And the spider web was removed by that person out of his normal duty, and the beam started coming. And nobody knew, even the greatest of the technology IT guys did not knew that That bean can be stopped by a spider web. Do you know what cost it for the company because of one spider? More than 100 crores. Right? More than 100 crores. I'm giving this example to tell you
That's
that
because they didn't know the business process or anything. That's why.
I mean, just telling you such examples. See, you should come out of those, the cubicles of an IT guy and actually go into the business. And you know what happened after that day? It was like a big gala celebration, like a carnival. It was like a big festival in Bhadrachalam, where all the directors, everybody were jumping and laughing and happy. Yes, there were 100 crore loss, but now they fixed it, right? The business starts. And the amazing part was, one guy who didn't even know what the solution, he was just cleaning the spider webs and it all happened, right? So that's the beauty. That's the beauty. So how was the example? It was good.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah. You should understand that as IT guys, we should get into the business side also, and really understand how the business functions, right? So how IT has contributed to business process, you can learn from your own employees around you. When somebody goes to a project and comes back, don't go and ask him, can you give me one role there, or when is the next project? That's all nonsense questions. Go and ask him what he implemented. In Harman, what did they implement? Or the next project, what are they going to implement? Right? What are the requirements? Speak in those lines. Become more smarter, right? Albert Einstein says, I have no particular talent. I am merely inquisitive. That is the greatness of Albert Einstein, right? And Roosevelt says, one thing life has taught me. If you are interested, you never have to look for new interests. They will come to you. You just have to be interested. And then everything happens in your life. Your career becomes very interesting. You will grow in your career. But if you sit in a corner and say, Merko project time will rise, or I'm not treated well in the office, I'm like a useless fellow, or this is like complaining, like a small kid in the office. Go outside and start exploring new things, start learning new things, and you will see a different person coming out of you and different talents coming out of you, right? Now I'm going to go a little fast. Now, all these industries, something common is there, as I told: sales and marketing, manufacturing and production, accounts and finance, human resources. These are like common functions. You should understand these functions properly. People who are going and implementing finance modules of SAP, if you don't know what is the finance function, you better come and spend some time with our finance team. You can come and sit with me. I can explain you. You should understand what is the trial balance, what is the balance sheet, what is the profit and loss, what is, how the data comes in, what all kinds of reports we do to the government. I'm sure you already know, but you should become very good at it. Then you can actually go and do justice as a finance consultant in SAP or Oracle or PeopleSoft, whichever it may be. Technology comes next, business process comes first. Right? So now I'm going to spend information systems. I know this information you also find in the internet, so I'll not spend too much time. I'm going to go a little fast here. There are 3 levels of systems, right? Operational level, management level, and strategic level. Operational level means people who do data entry at the most lowest level. Management level who run reports. Strategic level who see those reports and make decisions, right? So these 3 level systems, you should understand that every company has. So when you are going for a project, you should know which system are you touching. Like SAP, what system do you think SAP touches? Operation level, management level, or strategic? Operation level, of course.
Operation.
Management level to a certain extent. Strategic level, little extent. They do give reports, but they use the data and then they put into big data warehousing and business tools, and they come out with many, many more informations, right? So there are different types of systems: transaction processing called TPS, decision support systems, DSS and MIS. So there is a difference between both of these. Management information system is about capturing information. Decision support system is about specifically converting that information into decisive information. So there is a whole difference between DSS and MIS. You can pause this video later and learn. Very, very important. Or even in the internet, you can learn what is DSS and MIS. Then you can get into executive support systems, right? They deal something like this. They're bars and charts, and they exactly show the patterns, the way business data is flowing, right? So very much, and all these systems are in always demand. But you should know in IT, which system are you supporting? So that's the most important thing, right? So not everyone needs everything, and not everything is meant for everyone. This requires business knowledge to understand. For example, as an IT guy, if you are speaking to the topmost business guy, you should talk in business language. You cannot go and tell, oh, my go live date is 2 months later. But it's like nonsense for a business guy. He'll just ask, okay, is my solution done? Did you understand the solution? Are you going to fix my problem on the floor? Yes, we are fixing it, sir. We have come to this stage. We understood the problem. These are the reports. That is more important than saying, right now we are in testing phase. Right now we are in development phase. Right now we are the go live date. This is all IT language. They have to hear more from the business angle, right? So mapping business process, right? So you have sales and marketing, inventory, finance, core functions are there, functional areas. You have strategic level, management and operation level. And you have types of information and management hierarchies. Who uses this information is management hierarchies, and what kind of information is types of information, right? So here you have senior managers who deal with the strategic, middle managers who deal with the MIS, and TPS, operational manager, operational level. In the same way, what happens in each level is mentioned here. Like, for example, finance and accounts, payroll, accounts payable is here. But at the next level, it's finance and accounting, where you see the reports. And the next level, it's all about, it's all about, your profit analysis, like that. So from an HR perspective, also from an order, from a manufacturing perspective, also, you should know what information are you contributing through your IT system. See, this diagram is actually important for you all. You have to understand when you're going on a project, what information are you going to change, or what information are you going to contribute? Is it at a transaction level, strategic management level, or top management level, right? And which function are you touching? This also you should understand. So you have some idea of what your contribution is going to be, right? Now I'm going to get into a demo. It's a very straight and simple, procure to pay. How many of you in the call know what is a procure to pay process? Many of you know already what is a procure to pay process? So I'm assuming that nobody knows.
It's a process starting from the purchase requisition to the payments.
Exactly. Now, all the folks on the in the call, I want you to learn procure to pay, right? I want you to learn order to cash. These are basic process. If you don't understand this basic process, you can't implement any module in any company. You can't do any good to any customer. These are like basics, right? So let me tell you, it's a very simple way. It's very business logical also. Somebody needs material. Somebody needs material. So what does he send? He sends a requisition. A requisition looks something like this. This is Oracle screen, but he says, I want this, I want this, I want this quantity, this, I want it, right? So requisition comes to the purchase department. From that, when the requisition is approved, saying that, okay, this department needs this, go ahead and get it. So then there is a whole approval cycle, how a requisition is approved. And then finally, from that comes quotations, right? Now I need to buy this material. So it's not like I go to a DMart and buy it. No, I will go and actually put a request for quotation. I'll ask, for example, I need to buy a fridge. I'll ask Bajaj Electronics to give a quote. I'll ask Reliance to give a quote. I'll ask some other, company to give a quote, right? And I take all this quotation. So I send a request for quotations, and then I get quotations in the return. This is like a request for quotation, and then I get quotation back from 3 suppliers. Then what do? I do quotation analysis, meaning which quotation is the best quotation with the least price, right? So I do quotation analysis, and finally, from that, I come up with what? Purchase order, saying that, okay, I think the supplier B has given me the best quotation in the most least time is going to supply to me, so I'm going to raise a purchase order. So this is how a purchase order looks like, right? Approximately, to whom it has to be supplied, when it has to be supplied, what goods have to be supplied, etc. And at what rate they have to be supplied, what quantity is supplied, everything is there in the purchase order. It's like a contract I sign. And this purchase order in turn goes and the material is supplied. The supplier goes and supplies, and he also sends an invoice with it, right? So when the goods come, you have to raise a goods received note, right? And you also have to inspect. Again, is what you inspect? what was the requisition, what was in the requisition, what was in the PO, and what is supplied. All the three things you inspect, isn't it? For example, you supplied something that is not there in the PO, then you have to return it. Or you supplied something in the PO, but it is not in line with the requisition. There was already a problem between requisition and PO. So you do all that. So you raise a goods received note, and then you do and then you get a supplier invoice. Then you match all the three: PO, GRN, and supply invoice. All these three things you match and make sure that everything is right. Right? There is no problem. And finally, what do? You go ahead and release the payment. You tell the finance department, okay, go ahead and release the payment. We have received the material. You can pay the supplier invoice. And the payment checks look something like this, where all the information of the supplier goes and the amount goes, and finally it is approved, right? And finally, the goods are sent to the inventory. And now the departments who have asked for it can take from the inventory and use it. This is a basic business process of procure to pay, right? And every company, whether it is a huge manufacturing company or a small company, everybody are going to use this. Invariably, they're going to use this, right? So procure to pay is like core process remains the same around the world, whether it is India, Australia, China, everywhere it's going to remain the same. Nothing, maximum the approval rules, routing rules, exactly, some things will change, right? So if as an IT engineer, you cannot understand P2P process, then you cannot do any solution design, in any of the ERPs, you can't do. And you can't do justice to what customer is asking for, right? Did you all understand the procure to pay today? At least a glimpse of it, did you understand?
Yes.
Yeah. Swati will send Swati will send this video. You can again go through it and understand what is the procure to pay. In the same way, I'm not going to spend too much time on the order to cash. Again, customer is asking for something. He sends for customer, it's a purchase order. For me, it's a customer order, right? I'm seeing the other side, right? So customer is asking from me to supply. So customer gives the order. I do the production planning. Then I go ahead and manufacture. I go ahead and create a finished goods inventory. Then I go ahead and ship it to the customer. I raise a customer invoice, and the customer invoice goes to the customer. He sends me a receipt that he has received it. And then finally, he makes the payment, and the payment comes to me, right? And I account for that payment and my customer, and I transfer the funds to my bank. So I have finished my customer order process. They are simple as that, right? But every customer has maybe a little 2 and 3 additions more to this or subtractions. But overall, this is the order to cash process. So O2C process means order to cash. P2P means procure to pay. So these are like basic. Like that, there are many business processes which I want all of you to go to a customer place, or even when you're sitting in the office, try to learn these things. And you can learn these things by looking at, as I said, even your day-to-day things around you, you can learn out of it, right? In a few case studies, I already told about the factory example. Now, here is one pedimento process. When I was implementing Oracle long time back, there's something called pedimento in Mexico, meaning whenever they manufacture something, they have to put a number to it called pedimento number. So when the raw material comes in, they also put the same number to the raw material. And when they produce the thing, they also put the same number to the production. So which raw material has contributed to which finished product, they want to map it. And according to that, they want to pay taxes to the government. It's a very unique requirement of Mexico. It is not there in any ERP. So then what do? The customer told boss, you have to do something for us. So we have to build a custom solution which works along with the ERP. But it required us to do a lot of analysis of the business process. We have to understand, how do you map a raw material to a finished product? How does, on the shop floor, we have to go and understand, right? But technologies, we use data loader, Oracle Forms, Oracle eSuite, like that, right? So it's not the technologies that is important, but it is the most important thing is, how do you understand the business requirement and how do you map it? Time allocation, guys, I'm telling you, time spent on business solution is the most. 60% of your time has to be spent on understanding the business and solutioning the business. Don't pull your keyboard and start typing and opening forms in SAP or Oracle. Then you will do a disaster to that project. First, understand the business process. Put a SIPOC, like I told, supplier, input, process, output, customer. Or whatever template you have to capture the requirements, do it. Put your design. Make sure that your solution design is matching to everything the requirement has. All these things is more important. Then get into your testing and development and deployment and whatever, right? Those all things are part of. So freshers focus now is needed in what? Learning the industry of the customer, number one. Understanding the business process of the customer, number two. Inquire from the customer goals and IT roadmap. Ask the customer, what is going to next? Okay, we'll implement. What other technologies are you going to get into? What other businesses are you getting into? That's more relevant than technologies, right? Then understand other projects on the floor, like what all other things are happening at the customer base. Don't just sit and say that I have done Oracle, that's all is my, or I have done SAP, I have understood. No, understand at the business customer base, what other technologies are people using and what all IT landscape you have to understand. IT landscape, we call it, right? So SAP is sitting here, some other tools are sitting there, some of the reporting tools are sitting there. What all is there, you need to understand. Yeah. So that is very important. And finally, make a training plan to learn new technologies. Based on that, then you put a nice training plan and learn the new technologies. Become a business centric, not a technology centric. Okay, become a business centric person, not a technology centric person. Because if you become a technology centric person, your growth will stop at a point and your life will be so uninteresting, boring life you'll have. But if you become a business centric person, you will not only be techno functional. Don't think about money all the time. How will I make more money? Who will give me a better job and a better salary? Keep all those things aside. There's something better than that is job satisfaction. You will feel so nice that finally you've made something that people are using. A company is using. Like for example, my first implementation in my career as a ERP consultant was Gati Cargo. And every time I see a Gati truck going, I remember the solutions that I implemented. Right? So that gives me more satisfaction. So you should also become business centric and not just technology centric. Okay, so I'll stop it here. I hope this seminar is useful for you. Now I'll open it up for questions. I request all of you to, open your cameras and make me feel that I was not speaking to a computer and ask you questions. Did you learn anything today?
Yes, sir. Very informative. That one is very informative as how can we segregate the business requirements and how can we learn quick. That was very much informative.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any reflections?
One thing I learned is going forward, wherever I go, I make sure that I understand what is the business process of the item or whatever I'm doing. So that makes me to understand and implement in my coming future projects or anywhere in my life in that case. Thank you, Lakshman. Thank you so much. That was very much informative.
Thank you, Durga Prasad. And I request your colleagues to also come and attend these trainings. As I told, this is a time when patients are not running behind doctor. Doctors are running behind patients. Management is running behind the employees to help you know these things so that you can become a better, productive person.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Durga. Yeah. Anybody else? You can go into a gallery view and you can see each other. All of you can come on the screen. Any reflections? Yeah.
Lakshman, this is Ajay.
Yeah, Ajay.
Of course, this was a very, very good learning from this session. One thing I would like to request you to please have a session how we can, sometimes there are some mistakes from the client, and because of that we are facing problem in managing the projects. And you know that you cannot take, you cannot say straightforward to client that because of this your process or because of these things, the things are not going smoothly. How to tackle these kind of diplomatic issues?
Yes.
I would like to have a session with you on this.
We will discuss on that. There is a session on that, and we will discuss on that. But I will tell one thing, Ajay, and everybody on the call, guys. Business is a very complicated thing to run. Okay, very complicated thing to run, and we should always look at it from the business person's angle, right? For example, when somebody gives us a project, he gives us a scope, he gives us a requirement. Nobody on the planet can write the complete requirement. And nobody on the planet can put a complete solution to it. There are going to be gaps. So when the customer comes and asks, demands us, or cries and says that, I forgot to write the requirement properly, we should also understand that it's humane to miss some things. And he will also understand that it's humane to not put the full design also. Sometimes we miss some things. So I think we should understand the business and the complexities of the business, and partner with the customer, saying that I am with you in this journey. I am with you. Don't worry. I know there is a scope document. I know there is a there is a contract which me and your company are talking to, but we both can go beyond it also, and we can make our management understand that it is going to cost more money, but we'll also put the case forward properly, rather than just fighting with each other saying you missed the scope, or it is more than the scope, or you're talking more than what you told. Or instead of all this, we'll try to see how the business has to be saved, and we will together put the point forward. So there is a lot of relationship building involved. There is a lot of understanding involved, and the most important, courtesy has to be there, that nobody has to suffer because of a small mistake, be it the customer or us on the other side. A lot of maturity is needed to handle IT projects. That one thing I'll tell. Human relations are very, very key. You can't go by paper. You can't just go by paper and say, this is what you told, this is what I told.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, but there's a lot more to discuss on this. Thank you for bringing up the topic, Ajay. Yeah.
What we understand, the best solution we can get is the more in-depth business processes are known.
Yes, Rajiv. Thank you.
Then the robust solution can be delivered to the maximum extent of the organization.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rajiv. Okay, couple of more reflections, guys. I want you guys to be more enthusiastic audience, coming every Friday and saying, okay, let's take this as a good break to learn something new. Right? So any more reflections? Couple of them and I'll wrap up. Any other takeaways? Or any corrections? You can tell a correction also. No, none?
Yeah, apart from individual module side, we have to know other modules and the actual business flow to get the right requirement and to satisfy the client's requirement. So one should have knowledge on every module.
Yes. Who told this?
Sujna, sir.
Sujana.
Yes.
Yeah, Sujana, that's a very important point. Guys, early on in my career, I used to think that I'm a finance guy, so I'll only look at finance relevant modules. No, you have to look at distribution, you have to look at procurement, you have to look at manufacturing, you have to look at CRM. Everything is mapped. That is why we call it as a ERP, right? That is why it is an integrated system. You have to put a little effort to go into other areas and also understand how everything is interlinked and what reports can be generated, which can give intelligent information across modules to the customer, right? So that's a very important point. When you understand the business process, try to own a process, not a module. Simple thing is, in IT, don't try to own a module or a technology, try to own the process. Deliver everything to the customer in the process. Then you'll actually learn and contribute more. Very good point. Okay, one more point and we'll wrap up. Okay, so I don't know how useful it will be. I think somehow, at least if it has helped one person in the call, in today's call, I think my effort is useful. Our effort is useful as a management. We want you to attend these sessions, motivate your friends also to attend these sessions, because by attending, you'll gain something and you'll learn something. And we are not doing this for, putting added work onto you. We want to equip you so you can do your work better, and you can also share, this knowledge with others. Okay. So I request all of you to share what you learned here today with your colleagues, and we'll wrap up here.
Okay. Sure, Lakshman, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So guys, soon we are coming up with system security training. So we will share the details soon, most probably by next week or coming week we are going to have. That is going to be a little lengthier session. However, that is going to be mandatory for everyone, because after that there will be a test and the certificate will also be given. So everybody should be aware of all the system security things. Many a times we feel that we know everything, but still we get into some or other fraud or some or other issues where by mistake we actually break the code of system security. So soon we are going to share the details of system security training. So that's what I actually wanted to announce. Thank you all. And thanks, Lakshman, for wonderful session. I'm sure Six Sigma, a little bit they might have touch based, and maybe later on, if they have interest, they can actually get towards Six Sigma training. Later on, that will be helpful for them.
There are so many more tools. There are so many more tools that Six Sigma gives, and there are many others. Like if you have a willingness to learn, there is so much to learn. Yeah.
Thank you all. Thanks for participation.
Thanks, Lakshman. Thanks.
Have a nice.
Thanks, Swati.
And I hope you'll start respecting spiders after this.
Yeah.
Not even spiders, even ant.
Okay.
You never know what it does.
Have a nice weekend, guys.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.